All right, we're back live again for this episode of the Ninja Cast with Jeremy Ransom. Hopefully, I pronounced your last name right, man. I'm going to bring him on in just a second, but I just wanted to make sure that we're posting live through our YouTube channels and Facebook, and it looks like everything's working how it should be. For those that don't know, this is the Ninja Cast, brought to you by REISift. What we do is we bring on individuals who have a really interesting deal, really interesting story in real estate, and are just kind of like doing things that we think are really unique, in the ability to get them on the Ninja Cast in order to teach their ninja skill sets to you, so that you can, take a few of those nuggets and implement it into your business, and hopefully you reap the rewards of that knowledge, right? So go ahead and share this if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook or whatever, go ahead and share wherever you're watching from on your Facebook. Would really appreciate that. If you have any questions for Jeremy throughout this, put it inside of the comments, and we'll go ahead and answer them at the end. And other than that, if you're listening to this through, Spotify or any of the other, apps after the fact, and you're not listening live, then definitely go to the YouTube channel, REISift on YouTube, and subscribe so that you get notifications on when we're doing them live. All right, let's bring Jeremy in, man. I appreciate you hopping on. Appreciate you sharing your story, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate it. So you're out of Dallas, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're out of Dallas. How long have you been in Dallas? Your whole life?
Pretty much whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you've been in Dallas your whole life. Let's go ahead and just start with the meat and potatoes, man. Let's take it back to, what were you doing before real estate? When did you get started in real estate? Give us catch us forward up to getting started in real estate.
Yeah. So I actually dropped out of high school at 16 because I was just tired of high school. I was like, nah, it's not for me. So I went directly into the workforce at 16. So I did a lot of warehouse work up until maybe about 2012 or so. Just kind of got tired of that, the hustle and bustle. I'm not a big guy, so I don't really like to do a lot of physical work. And that's when I made the transition into healthcare. And for the last 10 years, I've done healthcare, just various things. I started from the bottom. I was working for free at one point in time on the weekends while I wasn't at FedEx or wherever. I was working at 2 different FedEx at one time, just to kind of get my foot in the door. So I know all about kind of just rising through the ranks. I went from I think I was like a secretary, a volunteer secretary, and I went to in the kitchen, and I went from a CNA, and then all the way up to a surgical tech is what I ended up being. And that's just pretty much I guess you could say my flow of work coming up from as a young guy. And then I got into real estate back in 2018. That was November, I want to say. It's like November, December. I went to my first RIA after I saw it was a podcast. I think it was Breakfast Club. Somebody was on there and was just like the special guest. I think it was Mark Whitten is who it was.
Okay.
And, the advice he gave, he was like, hey, if you don't know anything about real estate, just go out to like a RIA, start shaking some hands, just kind of, get familiar, and look up your YouTube videos and stuff like that. And it all started to make sense. And that's exactly what happened.
Awesome, dude. Sweet. And about when was that? Was that timeline wise?
As far as getting into real estate?
Yeah. Like what year kind of you started?
2018, right at the end, like November
2018, roughly around there. Okay, cool. So no high school diploma. Did you ever end up going back and getting your what do they call it? The
GED?
Yeah, GED.
Yeah, I got a GED literally 2 weeks after I dropped out. So
okay, so dropped out, got your GED, started in the workforce, started in warehouses and stuff, and kind of ended up in the medical field, where you ended up kind of being a surgical tech. And are you still doing that now? Or are you doing real estate full time?
Real estate full time.
Okay, cool. So that it's really interesting. Really, yeah, like you said, really hustling. Really since you're 16, probably even earlier than that. And so that's really really cool just to see, and it kind of just shows it's like the seems to be the lifeblood of most entrepreneurs. Obviously have some sort of story that is either from their youth, really just always, grinding, or something happened in their life where something triggered them to start, actually taking wealth and finances and business, something that they take seriously. Okay, cool. So then let's kind of take from 2018 now. You got started in real estate. You heard about this whole real estate thing. Did you hear about wholesaling initially, or did you hear about flipping? I mean, what was this REIA? What did you kind of take out of that initial REIA that you're at?
So it was wholesaling. That's what Mark was actually talking about in that podcast that I was looking at.
Okay.
And I just kind of went on YouTube, and it's funny because it actually paired up. I used to always see Max Maxwell's videos on like the side.
Yeah.
I think I had typed in one time, like I was like I was wanting to buy a house, and I was just like, how do I buy a house with like no money? And obviously, wholesaling kept popping up, and I would always just see Max Maxwell, but I would never like click on it because it was just like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's finding lots for like $500. It was like, that doesn't even sound.
That video is the video that made him blow up. Buying a lot for 500. Yeah.
And I was just like, there ain't no way people buying stuff for $500. Like, whatever. Okay. Yeah. But it was until I kind of paired it all up, and then I went down that rabbit hole on YouTube for sure. And I just kept on going. And then when I went to that RIA, it all kind of made sense to what I was looking at on YouTube. Like, they were just saying things like ARVs and all of that. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is clicking now. You know what I mean? Kind of a light bulb moment.
You kind of needed that like local validation in a sense. Like, okay, these are real people. I can see them flesh and blood. Like, they're talking the same language that was on YouTube. So I feel that because when I got started locally here, there's a couple. Their name is Chris and Ariane, and they when I was in North Dakota before I got stationed here in 2017 in Northwest Florida. They had been on Bigger Pockets for something, and I remember seeing their name or whatever, and I remember knowing they're from Fort Wall, and I remember listening to that episode. And then when I got down here, I had was going back through and looking into the wholesaling thing. I'm like, there's this wholesaling thing that I heard about. It didn't seem legit to me. And then all of a sudden I came back across that YouTube or that podcast episode again and seeing Chris and Ariane, Fort Walton Beach. I'm like, shoot, I'm in Fort Walton Beach. They're doing it here. There's no excuse why I can't. Right. And so that way I kind of had the same thing. I needed a little bit of that local validation to say, hey, this is something that's legit. And so I totally understand that. Okay, so let's fast forward. Like, what did you start doing initially? Like, what was your, because I'm assuming you were in the W-2 at the time, still working then, right? And so like, what was your plan getting into it? Like, were you like driving for dollars? Were you cold calling, SMS? I mean, what was your typical day like in the W-2 trying to do business on the side?
So I actually, I started out driving for dollars, and I actually just kind of started pulling lists. Like, all of that kind of made sense to me. I just didn't know what list to pull. So it was just kind of like, all right, let me try to get a list from list source. I get like something like 1,000 leads, just to kind of at least get started.
Right.
I didn't really know what to do with it. And as far as driving for dollars, I remember I started, I believe the Propelio guys are from out in Arlington, and they had an event. I went out there, so I kind of signed up with Propelio at the time, and I was getting lists off of there. And they had a Driving for Dollars app inside of it, so I was using that and putting those properties inside of those, and just using True People Search to try and find them. I was actually not fond of cold calling, which nobody is, but my background being in medical, I don't really deal with people. I mean, they're asleep, they're under anesthesia, so customer service really wasn't my thing, like outreaching. So that's how I got into texting, and that was when I got my first like lead. I was like, oh, this is real now. It's like, this is cool. So I rocked from there.
Okay, cool. So you start off with texting. Really, that's kind of like your main thing. And so were you sending text messages while you're at your job and you're trying to respond while you're at the job? Or like, were you sending them and getting home and then having to respond back? And what was that like?
Well, fortunate enough for me being in medical, the schedules are set up pretty, you'll work like 3 days on and 4 days off. So you'll work 12s and then you'll have 4 days off. And I was very fortunate to have a job where I didn't work weekends, so I only worked Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I had the other 4 days of the week to just pretty much hustle. So
nice.
try and figure it out. So I use that to my advantage.
100%. Yeah, that's super, super smart, right? Being able to take advantage of really your unique, opportunities in that sense. And a lot of people like pull from that enough, like whether it be the stuff that they have going on in their life, right? When it's like scheduling, or even like their current experiences like knowledge base wise, like, I talked to some guys, especially those that like prior service and stuff like that. Like, yeah, well, I don't really have very many skill sets. I'm like, well, I think you probably have more than you think, because look at like a lot of the additional duty. All jobs have like your main job, and you have all the additional duties you got to do like outside of that. All those little additional duties are all the things that are skill sets, micro skill sets, can be kind of compiled together into being able to run like your own business, like using, Google Sheets and getting your data, uploaded to a platform for skip tracing. All those little things, those kind of micro things, really add up. And that's where a lot of people who aren't looking at their, life skills, they get really tied up in those decisions on, do I make them or do I not make them, because I don't know how to do something, like using Google Sheets, or do I get an LLC or not getting an LLC, all these different types of things. And so really cool. And on that note, I mean, when you first got started, like, was that even like things that were on your mind, like, coming out of, were you thinking about, all these different, like business concepts? Or were you more like that pretty cut and dry? Okay, well, I understand it's data and I understand I got to reach out to them, so I'm just going to start doing that. Yeah,
I was more of the, on the later half, like, I'm pretty just like, I get data. I'm analytical by nature anyway. So it was just, it made sense. Everything that was clicking, it was just like, as long as I can verify that it somebody else is doing it and it clicks, it's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just do that.
Yeah.
I did bounce around with marketing channels at first, just because I was trying to find one that I was trying to avoid cold calling for the most part, which is crazy. Yeah. Most of my deals come from cold calling now, but I was just trying to avoid it because it just was unnatural to me. Like I say, just coming from medical, you don't talk to a lot of people unless you're like on the floor or something like that. But in surgery, you don't be talking to almost anybody except for your coworkers. So I just kind of stuck with it like that.
Do you think it was like the fear of what to say at the time? Do you think you just really didn't know what to say, or was it like a limited belief that you were afraid maybe they didn't think you'd be able to like actually buy their property? I mean, was it like knowledge based? You think if you had like a more knowledge, you'd be more comfortable, or do you think that once you finally started making phone calls, you just became more comfortable organically? Or do you think you needed a deal to get comfortable?
It was more so just probably getting on the phone. I wasn't really hung up on the limited belief because it makes sense. Wholesaling is very simple. It's just like boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh, well, duh. That makes sense. So it wasn't really that. It was probably more so like imposter syndrome. If anything, like I'm saying I can buy this house, but can I actually buy this house? Now that I know that I don't technically need a lot of money to buy a house, but at the time, I don't know anything about buying a house. So it was more so just a little bit of fear. That's for sure. It was something new. It's something that is way out of my norm. I didn't know anything about real estate at the time like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people coming into the same situation, right? Like, and a lot of it's just, you can fear the unknown of what you don't know, but you're not going to know it until you actually try it. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to know if you can run a mile until you like actually start jogging a mile, right? And so, really cool that you ended up just actually kind of getting, just getting started. Like, hey, I'm just going to figure out what I'm going to do. And initially you're like, oh, I don't want to cold call. I'm going to start doing SMS. And you figured that out, right? That softer way to kind of get into it, which is important, but you just took action, right? So let's kind of like push forward to now, like when you got your first deal, what did that look like? Was it in land at that time? So I know you focus really heavily on land now, but was it land then, or who are you specifically focusing on? And that first lead that came in that you said was like a really legit lead. Did you end up closing that one, or was it?
I didn't. I'm so mad that I didn't, because now that I look back on that one, the numbers did make sense. But like I said, I didn't know. It was a vacant. It was terrible. He wanted 70 grand for it. Now, if you hear 70 grand now, it's like,
oh yeah, 70 what?
Yeah, so it was like 70 grand, a little 2-3, or it was like a 3-1 bedroom. I didn't close on it, but I counted my small wins. Like, I got a lead. Like, okay, that's a small win for me. I didn't know how to do it, get a lead at that time. So I was just like, okay, this is an actual lead. Yeah. Then it was like, okay, I'm going on an appointment. Okay, don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go on an appointment anyway. So it's just, I just kept taking small wins like that until I finally got my first one. It wasn't even from a text. It was from an RVM. Like I said, I was trying a little bit of everything. Yeah. And that was the first time a lady actually called me back from an RVM. And she was just like, situation was, she was wanting to get divorced from her husband. She wanted to move to Maine from Texas, which is odd. transition. But she was just like, yeah, I want to move to Maine. She had been there before. It was beautiful. I was building rapport, not knowing that I was building rapport. You know, it was just a regular conversation. She really just called me back. She was like, yeah. What really made her call me back was on the RVM. At the end, I was like, have a blessed day. She just, for some reason that stuck to her. She was just like, oh yeah, I'm glad you know, or like that, you know, and we just kind of rolled like that. And crazy enough, she said the right number. I didn't even know it was the right number at the time. She just was like, hey, I'll take 150 grand. I threw out 150 grand. She was like, I'll take it. I just want to get out of here. And come to find out, the ARV was like 240. So it took no problem getting away with that. I actually got rid of that one for 170. And I was wondering why there was so much interest in it. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, really. I just wanted to just take action. So I ended up locking it up for 150 and sold it for 170.
Nice. So 20 banger on your first deal.
There you go.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Someone comments that I moved to Maine from Texas before. I loved it up there. Maine is beautiful, but it ain't Texas.
Yeah.
Maine is beautiful. It's a great place to go camping and visiting at. No offense to anyone in Maine, but I just wouldn't live there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really awesome. So, I mean, it actually came from an RVM. And what do you think you spent, you know, getting up to that time, right? Is this still the same 1,000 records that you pulled from Listsouce, or is this like a culmination? You're just kind of pulling everything from Propelio and a posh of things. Did you have a system around who you were actually targeting to get this, or you just like full send? Text message, RVM, sometimes it's RVM and sometimes it's text messaging. Sometimes it's both the same people at the same time through both. You know, I mean, it was just kind of chaos.
It was kind of chaos. It was more so actually what happened was I bought a list from my guy Simon out in he was in VA at the time. I think he's out in California now. And which is crazy. That also taught me how to build relationships too with people that aren't even in my market. He was just like, hey, bro, I got this list of 50,000. It has phone numbers, you know. I'm gonna trust you to send me, you know, pay me for it if you get, you know, a deal out of it or whatever. And that's how we built the great bond like that. So he sent me like a huge list of like 50,000 homeowners. I don't even know what kind of list it was. I don't know if it was high equity or what. I just was blasting RVMs. And I think I was using, I can't remember what RVM platform it was, but they would send just automatically. So I just get the phone calls back.
Yeah.
And just call them back if they called back and left a message. And I honestly don't know what that list was, but I have no idea what it cost me to get that one. It wasn't much money though, because I wasn't just dropping that much money into it. It was like text messages and RVMs.
So how did you decide how much to send though? I mean, would you just upload in all 50,000 at a time? Be like, I'm just going to drip this over X amount of months. Was it budgetary focused? I mean, how did you make that decision on what you were going to spend for marketing? I'm guessing it was based off of what you had, you know, really to execute on. Not based on what you could handle.
It was more so like that. It was budgeted. And I actually also had another advantage. I had just moved back home with my step pops because I had procrastinated on finding a new apartment. So I had like a nice period of time where I didn't really have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of budget like that. So I was like, if I get paid, I put $300 towards this or whatever. And, you know, RVMs and texts are pretty cheap. So it was more like just over a period of time because there was no way I was going to get through 50,000 of those.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, man, even RVMing 50,000 is a good chunk of change. So, and then not to mention how many people like the volume you're going to get back or responses on just management of it would be insane. So and what was that timeline? So November of 2018 until that timeline. Again, what was it?
June of 2019.
2019. So about 6 months of into that first transition, which I mean, 6 months to make 20 grand while still working in a W-2. I think that's a better hobby than most people have. You know, I know that I've wasted 6 months in my life doing a lot of other really stupid things that wouldn't have made me any money. And now that knowledge, let's kind of do like a jump forward here. That knowledge and that you know, going to the RIA, listening to the, you know, YouTube videos, a podcast, and taking the action on learning and just kind of like doing it, right? Not thinking too much about it, but just doing it. Even though I think now for most people, there's a lot of information available that's good enough to say, okay, hey, I'm going to learn how to do it the right way from the very beginning and execute that, you know, without thinking too much about it. And they'd be, you know, better suited and probably would have, you know, spent less money getting started. However, that knowledge now it stays with you forever, right? And so like you can build on top of that, and now you've taken that knowledge and kind of give us an idea from that deal in June of 2019, and through the rest of 2019 and into 2020, kind of like summarize what did that next 3 years look like? You still working in your W-2? You end up leaving the W-2 this year or last year?
I left my W-2 like 2 months ago, actually.
2 months ago. Okay, so then give us a follow. Like what has happened and what's the progression been over the last couple of years getting to this point? And I really love the fact that you didn't leave your W-2 like after that first deal. A lot of people are like, oh, validated, gone. And I'm not a huge fan of that personally. But give us an idea of what it looked like. How were things progressing? Did you continue doing RVMs after that? I mean,
yeah, I just kind of I kept bouncing around. So I do like RVMs, little text messages. I went and got Chris Chico's course on like Facebook ads. I was just trying to figure out ways to just kind of get leads consistently, because it was more of a side hustle at the time. Like my job wasn't bad. I think it was doing like almost 70K a year. So I can't be mad about that. If you throw extra 20, 30 grand in there, I make 6 figures. I'm happy. You look at it like a business, I guess you could say. It was more like just a side hustle. So it'd be one thing I'd stop marketing and I can just turn it back on when I need to and just try it that way. And so the next couple years or so, it was just more like that. It was just off here, I throw it in there, just get a deal. And it was a bonus to me. So it's like my job is not going to give me 20 grand on a bonus. So if I can do 20 grand.
Which if we think about that idea for a second, I have this conversation a lot with like people who are in W-2s, and like they're complaining about kind of where they're at right now in life. Like they feel like they can't like go out and do certain things, and they just can't get ahead and all these other things. And then I just ask some simple questions when I respond, when we have a conversation, like, well, what do you do here? What do you do there? And like, why so many questions? I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out a context about you so that I can best, give you good advice, but in the end, what I always find is that nobody understands a simple concept of like, hey, if you take, let's say $3,000 or $25 a month or $50 a month away from this over here and just put it into like a side hobby, like what you're doing, like just, hey, I'm going to trickle out some numbers and I'm going to see if I can't get a conversion, even if it's putting out bandit signs every now and again. And you just let something organically happen. You do that over the course of the year, like you're going to get a deal over the course of that year. Right. And that one deal, it could be 20, 30, 40. If it's a flip, it could be a $60,000, $100,000 flip. And that is, for somebody who's in a W-2, I mean, that's a huge bonus to be able to say, cool, well, I'm going to get caught up, or I'm going to throw this in for my retirement, or whatever the scenario is. And I know many people, especially in like on base in the government space, where, they've, been government employees for the last 20, 30 years. And that's all they've done is like, just watch for rentals on the side. They've done this, that, or the other smaller things. And, they've built a rental portfolio of 10, 15, 20 rentals over the course of the last, 15 years to bolster their retirement. They don't leave their W-2. They just do that on the side. It's just a healthy hobby, a healthy hobby to have on the side, compared to, something else that you could be doing that isn't as healthy of a hobby. And so sometimes a lot of people get stuck in the fact that they think that their W-2, what they do for a living, is designed to make them wealthy. And that's just not true. It's a job to pay your bills. Yes, there is some W-2s that can be wealthy, right? Like you can become wealthy, being a doctor in specific fields and things like that, of course, right? However, most people, 99 point whatever % of people, just throwing out a random number, it's not the case. And so that's really awesome. So you might have got a couple deals a year or whatever for that next couple of years, maybe more than that, extra bonus. And when did you realize it was like, okay, well, but now it's time to take it more seriously? Now it's like, okay, I want to actually start doing this more. Is it because your W-2 transitioned? I mean, was it, what was it?
Well, the W-2 actually started to tank. So I just kind of had to get out when I had the chance. There was a lot of management transitions and stuff like that. So it kind of started to phase a lot of things out. So it's just like, we probably shouldn't be here. And I just always had that outlook on it. It was like, I worked 10 years in healthcare. it's not hard for me to go get a job if I ever need to go get one. And I could probably start higher anyway. So it's not a big deal to me. It was just more so I want to be more, I guess, further down the line. I want to get like that. I'm thinking more 10, 20 years, 30 years down the line. So how can I position myself to start building more wealth on that side versus just kind of side hustling and just putting some money away and just, I mean, it feels good. Like you say, give yourself a $20,000, $30,000 bonus every year, 40, 50 or whatever it may be. And, you know, that's fine. But what is your end objective? Like, you know, where are you going with this? So that's kind of how I had to sit down and talk to myself. It's like, you can just go all in into this and just kind of build it to what you want it to be, or you can just kind of keep side hustling. Either or is not really a wrong answer, but for me, I wanted to build it more into a business than versus just a side hustle.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. I really like that. Okay. Cool. So let's now dig into this deal that you just closed, right? I know I can't remember the numbers on it specifically, but I know it was land. You're focused on primary land now. You're doing, you know, around 10 deals a year, right? It's kind of what your projections are, and maybe you have projections higher than that this year. But what's really cool is that, you know, most people in the real estate space, they're like, oh, well, they're, you know, 5 to 10 deals. You know, I do that in a month. I'm like, yeah, but what's your deal volume? Like, what's your volume of the per deal? Like what are you making on spreads? Because 10 commercial deals is way different than 10, you know, deals in like a specific zip code in Dallas or Houston or, you know, Crestview, Florida, or, you know, whatever, right? Like $2,500 spread versus, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 spreads is much different.
Right.
So you found this niche in Dallas of land where you're really focusing on land. And so, first of all, what is the deal that you just closed? What was the profits on it again?
$65K, and that was a JV.
$65K on a JV. Okay, and then and that deal at $65K on just dirt, right?
Yep.
What was the process to get into that deal? Like, was it what kind of lead gen was it? Just take us back and kind of bring us forward, and then we're going to step back and understand what your operation looks like today. But I want to get into this kind of deal just so people understand the possibility.
Cool. I actually got my SIF account open, so I can actually give you the timeline of everything.
That's the activity log. You're going to run us through the activity log.
So we're going to let the activity log. So lead generated actually on August 2nd, 2021. That was the first time I made contact with him. It was an actual go no go because I couldn't find his phone number. The way I go no go him, I did go in the Skip Genie, but his daughter actually was the listing agent from 2018, which is he shows up on a what's his 4? He's a 4 stack, so shows up on, if I'm not mistaken, failed listings, tax delinquent, tired landlord, code violation. So, which is why he stuck out to me anyway. And the lead got generated in August. Ended up calling his daughter. She gave me his phone number, and you know he's like, nah, not right now. So August, follow up. Let's see where did I follow up at. Follow up back in August. There's a follow up for September, October, November, December. We finally went on the contract. January 13th is what I have it at. So about 6 months of follow up.
6 months of follow up. Now, I want to step back for just a second.
Okay.
Just because some people I realize might not know what JV is. JV stands for joint venture, and you joint ventured this on the back end. So someone found the buyer for you.
Yeah, my guys. Actually, Anthony's in here. Anthony Cedino, Malik Vaughn, and Devin Guy. Yeah, they're over at Renovate Holdings. Yeah, they're land guys too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they found buyer. They actually found all 3 buyers in this particular this particular deal. Yeah. So so yeah, we go on the contract January 13th. Everything's pretty smooth. We comped it out. There was 3 comps that showed $120,000 for each acre lot. I picked this thing up for $350,000 for 5.5 acres. And he just says the right number. I think we haggled for just a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. It's only simply because of that follow up. He knew exactly who I was when I called him and everything. We got on the contract for $350. And like I say, there was 1 acre lots going for $120. So now I got 5.5. So I got about $60,000 or so an acre. and I think we could get it off for about 100, 120, something like that, an acre. So yeah, we just kind of went through it like that. It was pretty smooth. It wasn't a bad transition, like you said. That rapport and that follow up really just mattered because he already knew who I was. He was already familiar with me, and I was like, "Hey, you ready to sell it yet? You ready to sell it yet? Ready to sell it yet?" Until he finally said, "Yeah."
I love that, and you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. My internet shut off and then turned back on, like StreamYard loves to do to me. So hopefully everybody else heard your whole story there. But I gotta love it. We're actually getting Starlink at the office just to try to see if that helps, because I hear Starlink is doing absolutely fantastic right now. The whole Tesla or Elon Musk internet, and so hopefully I can dedicate that to these freaking StreamYards. Nevertheless, so just to run that back through so that I'm caught up and we kind of state everything here. You marketed to this individual. They responded. What was the strategy for marketing?
That was cold calling. Sensei flowed.
Yeah. Okay, so use the Sensei flow process.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sensei flow process, which ended up being a go no go. So you exhausted the record, became a go no go. So you switched over to Skip Genie, found the phone number on Skip Genie, got a hold of them there, followed up for 6 months, got them under contract, and then worked with Anthony to dispo that deal to an end buyer, ultimately making 65 grand in that 6 month period for that one deal.
Yep.
And Elon we trust, hell yeah. So that's freaking awesome, because just because for those that don't know what the Sensei flow process is, just YouTube Sensei flow, REISift or whatever. I mean, oh yeah, look at that. Boom. You got it laminated and all, dude. I love that. And so that process, what that enabled, what he did is he said, okay, this is on 4 different lists right now. And so I'm going to try to reach out to them. I'm going to call each phone number. I'm going to text each phone number. I'm going to do it up to 3 times. If I don't reach them, I'm going to try a different skip tracing provider, try those phone numbers. If I do reach them, fantastic. If I don't, now I need to dig even deeper. And you do that to that top, 1%, 10% of the data set that you have, and you're going to yield results. I promise you that. Like if you actually do it the right way. And the last step of that is sending direct mail if you can't get them via phone. And so he's fortunate enough that in that process, he got the phone numbers through the skip trace. So if you just look at that one record, right? If hopefully my internet's keeping with me. There it is. You keep that one record, it only costs you probably $1.50 or something like that, if that, in order to reach that individual. And then you have the follow-up on time. And in those follow-ups, you're not just sending out automatic drip text messages, are you? Or are you doing those?
Oh, no. I was actually calling him. I just actually that happened around the time, I think, when you added the the task and stuff like that. So it was a repeated task over and over again. It just reminded me, just to follow up pretty much. I just call him.
Yeah. So the task gets popped up. It's inside your radar. It says, hey, call this person back, follow up with them. You open up the record, you look at the notes, and boom, you just give them a call. And so if you have, as people continue to scale, you just need people doing exactly that same process and just doing it, well. And you're going to yield results, right? Not to say you can't do all the bulk stuff as well. And I'm sure you have the plans to progress and then probably doing stuff like that. But just, vacant land, you can really, a lot of that stuff requires you to dig in a little bit deeper and stuff and focus on website stuff and everything. But that's super awesome. That's a really awesome deal. From start to finish, I mean, the follow-up is key. Reaching out to them and not giving up just because you didn't, get good, the right phone numbers in the very beginning. And then making sure that you reach out to somebody if you're not quite sure how to dispo that is also really, really efficient. So let's go ahead now that we have an idea about that deal, this obviously you've been doing vacant deals since before this vacant deal, but what got you into the vacant side? What was that first vacant land deal that you're like, oh shit, I'm going to focus on vacancy?
So actually, I got into a course. That's how I actually met Anthony. We were in William Haran's course. And he just had an 8-week course on land, simply because I was just like, man, I just kept hearing land was a little bit more straightforward than single family. And I was like, I would throw away land leads, like, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So I just didn't know how to comp it, how to look at it, how to value it, and all those things. So yeah, this was, I went there. I think I started land last April, something like that.
Okay.
And that's actually how I found REISift was, I think I started REISift last February, is because Facebook got expensive on Facebook, the leads and stuff like that. Because that's what I was rolling. And that's actually how I found McLean. And McLean actually knows William, I believe, as well. So it all kind of tied in like that. And so yeah, it was more straightforward. It wasn't that emotional connection to it. A lot of these people, they just bought it back in 1990 and just forgot about it, or their grandma left it to them, or whatever it may be. So I just found it was more attractive to me, and it was less, I guess I wouldn't say competition, but it wasn't as saturated as single family. So it just made more sense to me.
Love
I
it.
didn't know big spreads like that though. So that's the reason why I jaded
Yeah.
on it. It was that was actually my first really big acreage, I guess you could say. Most of them are like kind of real lots, but yeah. So that's why I reached out to Anthony and Malik and all of them.
Man, I mean, they lots, like in general, like anything to deal with doing some new build stuff, like tear downs and things like that, have always been really lucrative for me. One of my, in my top first five deals was a tear down to a builder, and I think we did like 35 grand on that one, and I was like, okay, this is a big thing. And now, especially, I mean, in our market now, like if you can find land and it's at a good price, I mean, anything that I would have wholesaled, to a builder, 3 or 4 years ago, now, I mean, I would make double that now. I mean, it's insane. Sellers wouldn't even sell for what I wholesaled it for now, which is just remarkable to think, which is why it's so important. Like what's so important just to get started, right? Because the sooner you can start building the knowledge and you start building the getting used to the motions of the business, the sooner you can understand where you fit in it. Mm-hmm. And as the market changes, where's your lateral movement going to be in order for you to capitalize as much as possible. So what does your operation look like right now then, right? So you're focusing primarily on vacant, but what's the flow? What's your day look like? It's just you in the business, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have any VAs or anything like that. So no VAs, just you and just vacant land data?
Yeah, pretty much vacant land data. And just pretty much is just gathering the most data. For sure, tax delinquent, code violations. I'm trying to make a connection to get that the demolition list. Would be a great one for me as well. Kind of working on that right now. Pretty much those are the only ones right now. And I actually leverage Lead Mining Pros for my calls as far as volume, I guess you can say. So my flow actually goes through, I'll Sensei flow the records and just kind of get those dead numbers out, those incorrects, those, all of those numbers. So anything that is a no answer or anything that is, maybe a voicemail or something like that, I'll just compile them and I'll send them to Lead Mining and just have really niche campaigns come out. That's how I just got 3 leads today, or just from doing the same thing. Okay. I'll just kind of niche them out like that and just kind of leverage that. Hence the reason why I don't have a VA, because that's what the calls are.
Okay, so you're leveraging basically a VA service.
Yeah, VA service. And same thing. Well, I'm going to implement Call Porter for my direct mail as well. Nice. When I start kind of implementing that, because I heard I've actually come to find that direct mail works really well on land.
Beautifully. Yeah. We actually have a postcard that you can get through if you message support right now until we build it in product. If you message support, they can get you our actual just a vacant land template, and we can process that through our support, unless you already have a direct mail place, but we can do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And so, vacant land is a huge one, just a simple hey, I'm looking for vacant land in X, or I'm interested in your vacant land on X street. Things like that, really, really efficient. And what's nice is you can do that same exact messaging in Facebook ads and things like that in the future, and build a website around, vacant land. And you can really scale that whole vacant land thing really well. One thing that I want to talk about when it comes to, and it's along these lines. Someone had asked, where are you getting land prospects? He already kind of answered that. He's actually like getting it from the vexation data that he's pulling, like code enforcements and all these other things. He's just pulling that data, and then that it's vacant land because of, well, a couple of reasons. Sometimes it doesn't have a postal address, but if you're focusing on, like, most of Dallas is all inner city, right? Unless you go to the very outskirts. So most all addresses in Dallas that's vacant land have a street number, right? Like a lot of them have like 123 Main Street instead of just being Main Street. Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier, so instead what you're probably looking at is you're probably looking at the property type or something like that to know that it's vacant land. Or
you can do it in Listsouce, or you can do it. I do it on Propelio actually, because Propelio lets you just get like 5,000 records a day, so about 150,000 records a month for the same price of the subscription. So I just leverage that. And of course, it's the same scale how you had to set up all of it anyway. You get your blanket data, your high equity data, which you can pull just vacant land, pop it in there, and then whatever vexations you can add in there, whatever pops up. Believe it or not, affidavits pop up all the time on vacant land. Probate, same thing. Whatever you can get, and it pops out, and I just tag it as vacant land. Yeah. And if it comes up on there, that's what I'm going after. If you're two steps more in, I'm on you. For sure.
So pretty straightforward process. I mean, it's not like you don't. The one advantage that you have being in a city like Dallas is the fact that you don't have to deal with the data where you're only dealing with vacant land, like with a street name, because that becomes a little bit more difficult. So if you have like on one street, if there's 3 vacant lots, they're all the same address. The only difference is a parcel number.
Right.
And so that becomes a little bit more difficult to kind of manage for anybody who's inside of, locations. Like for me, you have Fort Walton Beach, but you have Fort Walton Beach, the city, and then you have Fort Walton Beach, not the city, and so anything that's not in city limits doesn't have any postal addresses. It's just a vacant lot. And the only way to know that is to pull 2 separate lists, one that's just vacant land and it just comes, without an address, and then one that is, that does include addresses. And so what we've done in order to make this simpler is that we just pull data based off of the land use, not the land use, but the what property type is showing, because property type will show, just vacant if it doesn't have a house on it. If it doesn't have a house on it, it's going to say, single family residence. And so that's how we've went around that, is we've kind of just done that. And like you said, Listsouce or any other tool, REISift this year will have the same, functionality. And so, just start off though, like any niche list that you pull, tax delinquency, code enforcements, any of that stuff is going to have vacant land in it. And you just got to filter by it and use it. Awesome. So then as of right now, your flow goes intake new data, look to see if it's stacked, Sensei flow, the stack data, any of those, the pool of records that you're not reaching that still have phone numbers, you send those to lead pros. What are their name again?
Lead mining pros.
Mining pros. Oh yeah, lead mining pros. And you send it to them and you choose whatever option they have for, hey, dial this, for 1,000 dials or whatever. And they dial through it. And after they dial through it, they send you all the leads. They say that they're finished. And as of right now, the only piece that's not really connected there is obviously they're not updating. If they do get a hold of a wrong number, you're not getting that information.
Right. Well, no, I do. They actually sent a call log at the end of the week. On the spreadsheet. And the way I actually found a way around it was to change at the top where it says tags to tag it. And then I just tag all the numbers off the spreadsheet. And I just report it like that. So yeah, that's how my flow goes, like that.
Nice. So they will give you. So since they give you that, which is really important, make sure they give you the call logs. That way you can update your data, and then boom, you then know based off of their results, what records then you're not reaching at all through calling, so that you can do the deep prospecting kind of situation on if it deems necessary or high value enough to do so. Then that's really where that good direct mail time would be. And so, man, it's really, buttoned together, really systematic, and it's not like you have like a super high overhead, because the one nice thing about lead mining pros is that you don't have to pay a subscription with them. You can just pay as you go. And so it's not like you have like a massive overhead. It's like once you get the records that you want them to call through, boom, you send it over to them, they call through it. So you don't have the employee overhead or management or any of that kind of stuff. And so you kind of keep, the lifestyle that you want. and the time frame that you want to kind of do. And really, as you continue to build up your coffer, you can kind of decide with those funds where you want to go next, right? And so that's super awesome.
I can kind of steer where the cost goes to. Like I say, if it kind of gives me that insight on, okay, I need this size campaign or this size campaign. They also offer text and all that stuff too, so I can just kind of leverage them how I see fit.
Yeah, I love that. Portia said also on CADs, you can see values on improvements in land. If it's no value for improvements, it's land. Yeah, that's a really good tip. Very good tip.
Portia, she does land too.
Nice. Fantastic. I love it. Let's cover a couple things in terms of like for people who are either just getting started or like aren't really sure. Like what would you say right now? What tools and what kind of schedule? Like how much time a day? Like give some people some advice. Like if from where you're at now with the knowledge that you have now and they're trying to get started. Where should they go? What should they do? And just give them like that 7 steps or whatever. 7
steps. So first and foremost, get you some county data for sure. That's the free data. You can. We're very spoiled in Dallas. You can get the tax delinquent list off the internet. You can get the code violation list off the internet for less than $10. So no big deal. Definitely get that county data. Get you maybe some high equity data, depending on what you're targeting. If you want to do single family, if you want to do land would be, I would say land would be a little less lower, or it would be a lower barrier to entry. I would go with the land, and just basically just get the calling through, get your Google Voice phone or whatever it may be. If you want to stay on the cheap side, even though my overhead isn't very much, I think I'm under $500. But if you don't have any capital for that, I would definitely do that. You can do this with $100, and then just call through. At least get those leads going, and then I would definitely go out to some REIS, make some connections, so that way you can, once you get a deal, you can move the deal, so that you're not caught up trying to find a buyer and you don't know any buyers or any of that stuff. Other than that, that's pretty much straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Oh, that's simple. I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's simple.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Get some data where you can get it free from your county. Yep. Get some phone numbers, which you can use, skip tracing providers to do that. And then you can use Google Voice if you'd like to call for free, and just get used to that, right? And just do that consistently. Aim to try to do at least a minimum of 1,000, homeowners a month, not including your follow-up, so 1,000 new prospects a month, and then rock and roll. And as you get the budget for it, you can obviously get REISift, which has skip tracing inside of it as well, and the data management side, the CRM stuff. But really what I want you to really take from what Jeremy just said is he didn't say, go out and grab, a $300 Podio system, or go out and get this and go out and choose like a bunch of different, texting or RVMs or anything else. Right. He said, hey, just go get some data and just start calling through it. Right. And so keep it that simple. But narrow in on who you're focusing on, right? Don't grab that whole county list of 200,000 tax delinquent people in Dallas and skip trace the whole thing. Narrow down maybe to the vacants or a specific zip code or something like that, right? Like get a foundation in place, build consistency, and then stack on top of that, these different tools. And on the mention of tools, obviously you're an REISift user. What are you using other tool wise in your business services? Lead Mining Pros,
Aircall. Propelio. That's mostly data. I don't really comp on it. I use the MLS. I have MLS access, but I'm not an agent though. But I use MLS. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so REISift and Aircall. So that's for your dialing and your lead management, CRM type stuff. Propelio for data. And Lead Mining Pros for your bulk stuff.
Yeah, just bulk stuff. Yeah.
MLS for comp.
And Skip Genie. I forgot about Skip Genie.
And Skip Genie. Right. Yeah. So I mean, really, your overhead is really low. So that's all you need. Like, and I mean, you'll be well over 6 figures this year. You'll be in the 6 figures realm, right? And so
down in Florida.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and so that's freaking awesome to be able to spend less than $500 a month, or even less than $1,000 a month. Spend $12,000 a year, and be able to run a 6-figure, business that has the opportunity to be any, 150,000 a year, 250,000 a year, 500,000 a year, right? It's all based off of who you're targeting, the type of opportunity you're putting yourself in front of, right? If you started focusing on, multifamily or lots that are vacant, that are zoned as multifamily that you can sell to build a 150 unit building on, right? They were talking like multiple 6-figure assignment type stuff, right? And so really it's just about first building the skill sets and the fundamentals, learning how to ride a bike, right? And then going from there, right? And so you've done a fantastic job, obviously, in taking action. You've done a fantastic job in implementing like the processes. I mean, you even got freaking Sensei Flow laminated. That's pretty ballin'. And I think you're in the data to dollars this month, right?
Yeah. Class in here in a minute.
yeah. Call's coming up in a little bit. And so you're always educating yourself and always applying and always building stuff out. So kudos to you there. Really, a symbol of what's possible if you just kind of like focus on what you should focus on and not all the noise. So with data dollars being mentioned, actually, for those that are wanting to get into this, or those who have operations that are rocking and rolling, you're looking to really kind of like streamline your process and make everything systematized, if you will, from your sales and marketing processes, CRM side of the house, and all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that actually makes to where you're going to lose money or make more money. Go ahead and check out the Data to Dollars Challenge. You go to REISift.io, click on Learn, and then click on Data to Dollars. I would love to see you guys in there. It's fractional fee. I think it's like $300 or something like that. For 60 days of access and me teaching you guys how to use REISift in order to do and close these deals for $300. Even if you get one deal that's 65 grand, I think it's worth the ROI. Man, Jeremy, I really appreciate your time in the day. I mean, it just comes to show, like, for people that don't understand, time is truly, equivalent to money, and right. Him taking the time to be on here for an hour. I mean, that's 50 calls. That's 50 prospects, that's 50, it's time. And one of those $50 calls could be another $65,000 deal. So this literally could be a $60,000 conversation for every one of you that haven't started or that are working to try and get traction. This is a $60,000 conversation because everything that was talked about here, everything that he mentioned is things that you can do in your business right now in order to actually make, way more than 60,000, right?
And I want to mention that deal was actually supposed to be 145,000, not 65,000.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we lost 80K due to the seller. So
yeah, there you go. So it was supposed to be, and that's what, when you said 65, I was like, man, I feel like it was much bigger than that.
Yeah, it was lost 80K on it due to the seller.
But, hey, to lose, 80K and still be making money. I mean, that is pretty amazing.
Crazy. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I love it, man. So again, man, I really appreciate the time. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this conversation. I do apologize on the internet stuff, man. I've really got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Portia, thank you so much. RSF is dope for solopreneurs and full-blown businesses, but we love our solopreneurs. And I appreciate everything else that you do for the community, man. Answering questions and just sharing your wins is super huge, man. Do you have anything that else for anybody? And then where can people, reach out for any questions and stuff on you?
Yeah, you can get me on Instagram _landlord Jay. That's all one word. Just pretty much just keep going. Like it's really simple. Just don't overcomplicate it. Don't overeducate. Just kind of focus, laser in, and just actually do something. Like just take it in small wins. That's what really helped me, was just taking in small wins. I don't care if it's just to get a lead, then you get the lead, then you get an appointment, whatever it may be. Just go small steps. Don't try to go from 0 to 100 that fast. Or you're just gonna kind of discourage yourself and think that you can't do this. And definitely get REISift to condense that data. It's a lot easier to make 500 calls on double stacks versus 10,000 calls on high equity for no reason. You're just gonna filter out and find those 500 you were looking for anyway. So I would
What's up, Daniel? That's Daniel Schaefer, another monster in the niche, bouncing the W-2 and flipping and rentals and everything else. Great advice, Jeremy. _landlord J, right? Mm-hmm. Just one underscore, right? It's not like we wanted a double underscore.
Just one underscore landlord J, because I think there's a lot of other landlord names. So
yeah, sure. underscore Lord J. Reach out to Jeremy, support him, ask any questions you got about land and stuff like that, especially if you're in the Dallas area, you need someone to JV with or any of that kind of stuff, joint venture with. Reach out to Jeremy, and I appreciate your time again. Thanks everyone for listening, paying attention. And if you don't have REISift, head over to REISift.io, subscribe to the YouTube channel on YouTube. And if I can help out in any way, always feel free to reach out or message our support chat. Okay. Thanks, man. I appreciate your time.
Send me them land deals.
Send Jeremy them land deals.
Yeah.
And I'll see you in 30 minutes for the Data to Dollars Challenge, bro.
Sure. I see you.
Later, bro.
Yes, sir.